There's a small diner on the corner of Maple and 3rd that most people drive right past. Nothing about it calls out for attention. The sign is faded, the parking lot cracks in summer, and the windows always seem to carry a thin film of morning fog, even in the afternoon. But if you've ever stopped there, really stopped, not just for gas or directions, you know there's something about that place. Something that settles into your bones like the smell of coffee and bacon grease and decades of quiet conversation. I used to go there every Thursday morning, not for any particular reason at first, just because it was there, and I was there, and sometimes that's enough. That's where I met Claire. She was the kind of waitress who remembered your order before you said it, the kind who refilled your coffee without asking, who knew when you wanted to talk and when you just needed someone to leave you alone with your thoughts. She had gray in her hair before she should have, and lines around her eyes that came from something deeper than age. But her smile, when she gave it, and she didn't give it to everyone, felt like the first warm day after a long winter. I learned later that she was raising 2 kids on her own, that her husband had left 3 years before, not for anyone else, just for somewhere else, that she worked doubles most weeks because the diner paid what diners pay, and life costs what life costs. She never complained, not once, at least not where anyone could hear. I think that's what I admired most about her. Not that she suffered in silence, that's not admirable, that's just lonely, but that she carried her burdens with a kind of grace that made you forget she was carrying anything at all, until you really looked. The Thursday I'm thinking about now started like any other. October morning, that particular shade of gray that promises rain, but never quite delivers. I was in my usual booth by the window, working through my second cup of coffee and pretending to read the newspaper. Claire was moving between tables with that practiced efficiency that comes from years of knowing exactly how many steps it takes to get from the kitchen to booth 4, from booth 4 to the register, from the register back to the coffee pot. The breakfast rush had thinned out, and the diner had settled into the late morning quiet I loved. Just a few regulars scattered around, the soft clatter of dishes from the back, the hum of the refrigerator case where they kept the pies. That's when he walked in. You know the type. I don't need to describe him in detail because you've seen him before. We all have. The suit that costs more than most people's monthly rent. The watch that catches the light just so, because it's meant to be noticed. The way he looked around the diner like he'd accidentally stepped into a world he'd worked his whole life to escape. He was on his phone when he came through the door, and he stayed on his phone as he slid into a booth. Didn't look at Claire when she approached, didn't acknowledge her greeting, just held up one finger. That gesture that says wait without saying anything at all. She waited. I watched her stand there, coffee pot in hand, while he finished whatever conversation mattered more than the person standing 3 feet away from him. 1 minute, then 2, then almost 3, before he finally ended the call and looked up at her like she'd just appeared out of thin air. Coffee, he said, not a question, not a request, just a word dropped like a stone. Of course, Claire said, and her voice didn't waver. What else can I get you? He ordered without looking at the menu. Egg white omelet, no cheese, spinach only, whole wheat toast dry. And did they have fresh squeezed orange juice or just the regular kind? They had the regular kind. He sighed like this was a personal failing of the entire establishment. I went back to my newspaper, but I wasn't reading. I was watching, the way you watch a storm building on the horizon. Something in the air had changed, something that made the coffee taste a little more bitter, the morning light a little more harsh. Claire brought his food with the same quiet efficiency she brought everyone's food. Set down the plate, asked if he needed anything else, and when he waved her away without looking up, she simply moved on to the next table. But I saw her shoulders, the way they held tension she usually hid so well. The way her smile, when she came to refill my coffee, didn't quite reach her eyes. Busy morning? I asked, even though it wasn't. Something like that, she said, and we both pretended that was the truth. He ate quickly, the way people eat when food is fuel and nothing more. Phone in one hand, fork in the other, eyes on the screen. I don't think he tasted a single bite of that omelet. When Claire brought the check, he pulled out his wallet without looking at the total, dropped 2 20s on the table for a meal that cost maybe $18. And when she came back with his change, he took it. All of it. Every last dollar. I watched him slide those bills into his wallet with the casual ease of someone who's never had to count what was left at the end of the month, who's never had to choose between the electric bill and groceries, who's never had to smile at someone who just stiffed them because the rent is due and the kids need new shoes, and you can't afford the luxury of being anything other than gracious. Claire's face didn't change. That's what killed me. She'd built walls so strong that not even this could crack them. She just picked up the plates, said, "Have a nice day," and moved on. But I saw her hands. The way they trembled, just slightly, as she carried those dishes back to the kitchen. The way she paused by the swinging door, took a breath, and straightened her shoulders before pushing through. I wanted to say something, do something. But what do you say to a man like that? What words could possibly bridge the canyon between his world and Claire's? So I sat there, useless and angry, and watched him check his phone one more time before heading for the door. That's when the bell above the entrance chimed. The woman who walked in was maybe 60, with silver hair cut short and practical, and the kind of presence that made the whole room shift slightly in her direction. She wasn't flashy, no expensive jewelry, no designer labels. Just good posture and clear eyes and the unmistakable air of someone who'd earned whatever authority she carried. The man in the suit stopped dead. "Mr. Hartwell," she said, and her voice carried without being loud. What a coincidence. I learned later that her name was Eleanor Chen, that she was the founder and CEO of the investment firm where Richard Hartwell worked, that she'd built the company from nothing over 40 years, starting in a basement office with a folding table and a telephone. But in that moment, all I knew was that something had shifted. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. "Mrs. Chen," he said, and for the first time since he'd walked in, his voice had a different quality, smaller somehow, less certain. "I didn't know you came here. Every Thursday for 32 years, she said, moving past him toward the counter. "Claire makes the best coffee in the city, don't you, Claire?" Claire had emerged from the kitchen, and something in her face had changed too. Not quite a smile, but something close, something warm. "I just push the button, Eleanor. The machine does the work." "Nonsense." Mrs. Chen settled onto a counter stool with the ease of long practice. "It's all in the love you put into it. My mother used to say that. Said you could taste the difference between a meal made with love and one made with resentment." She turned slightly, addressing Richard Hartwell without quite looking at him. "Sit down, Richard. Have another coffee. I want to tell you a story." It wasn't a request. He sat. I should have left. This wasn't my conversation, wasn't my moment. But something kept me in that booth, pretending to read my newspaper while history unfolded 10 feet away. 32 years ago, Mrs. Chen began, as Claire poured her coffee. "I was in a situation not unlike where you are now, Richard. Young, hungry, convinced that success was a zero-sum game and everyone else was just an obstacle or a stepping stone." She took a sip of her coffee, eyes closing briefly in appreciation. "I came to this diner for the first time on a day when everything had gone wrong. A deal had fallen through. My investors were threatening to pull out. I had enough money left for one cup of coffee and nothing else." Richard shifted in his seat, uncomfortable. Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall against the windows. The waitress that day, this was before Claire's time, was named Martha. Old woman, older than I am now. She took one look at me and brought me a cup of coffee and a piece of pie I hadn't ordered. When I told her I couldn't pay for the pie, she just smiled and said, "It's yesterday's, would have thrown it out anyway." Mrs. Chen set down her cup. That pie was fresh, I could tell. Cherries still bright red, crust still flaky. But she let me pretend. Let me keep my dignity while she gave me something I didn't know I needed. The rain was falling harder now, drumming against the roof like gentle applause. I left her everything I had, every coin, every crumpled dollar in my pocket. It wasn't enough, not for what she'd really given me, but it was everything I had to give. She turned then, looking directly at Richard for the first time. I built my entire company on a principle I learned that day, not from business school, not from textbooks. From a waitress in a diner who could have treated me like I was invisible and instead treated me like I mattered. Richard's face had gone through several changes during this story. Confusion, recognition, and now something that looked almost like shame. "I saw you," Mrs. Chen said quietly. "When I was walking up, through the window, I saw how you treated Claire, and I saw what you left her." She didn't raise her voice, didn't need to. "Richard, you're one of my best analysts. You've made the firm a great deal of money, and you've worked very hard to get where you are. But I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think before you answer." The diner was silent. Even the kitchen sounds had stopped, though I suspected that was more about eavesdropping than coincidence. "When did you decide that your success meant other people's dignity was optional?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Richard opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Whatever answer he'd prepared died before it could form. "I came from nothing," he finally said, and his voice was different now, smaller, younger. "My dad worked 2 jobs and still couldn't make rent some months. I swore I'd never be like that. Never be in a position where someone else held all the power." He looked down at his hands. I guess somewhere along the way, I forgot what it felt like to be on the other side. Mrs. Chen nodded slowly. Success has a way of doing that, of convincing us that we deserve everything we have, and the people who don't have it simply haven't worked hard enough. It's a comfortable lie, easier than admitting that luck and timing and circumstances play a role, easier than remembering that we're all just one or two bad breaks away from being the person refilling someone else's coffee. She reached into her purse and pulled out a $20 bill, sliding it across the counter to Claire. My grandmother used to say that how you treat the people who can do nothing for you tells the truth about who you really are. Everything else is just performance. Claire took the bill with a quiet thank you, but her eyes were on Richard, and in them was something I hadn't expected. Not anger, not satisfaction, compassion. My first husband was like you, Claire said softly. Not cruel, just absent. Couldn't see past his own ambition long enough to notice the people standing right in front of him. I spent 8 years feeling invisible in my own home before I finally understood that his blindness wasn't my failing. It was his. She refilled Mrs. Chen's coffee, then moved to stand near Richard's booth. I don't tell you this to make you feel bad. I tell you because I've watched a lot of people come through that door over the years, and I've learned something. The ones who treat service workers like furniture, they're usually not happy people, not really. They're running from something or towards something, and either way, they're missing their whole lives in the pursuit. Richard looked up at her, and something cracked in his expression. Not broken, just opened. I'm sorry, he said, and the words sounded rusty, like he didn't use them often. I'm not usually... I know, Claire said. Nobody is. We're all just doing our best, and sometimes our best isn't very good. The question is whether we keep doing better. She returned to the counter, leaving Richard alone with his thoughts and his cold coffee and the ghost of who he'd been an hour ago. Mrs. Chen finished her cup, left her usual generous tip, and stood to leave, but she stopped by Richard's booth on her way out. There's a partners meeting next month, she said. You were going to be promoted to senior analyst. I'm not changing that. You've earned it with your work, but I want you to remember something. She placed a hand briefly on his shoulder. The way we rise is the way we'll be remembered. Make sure you're building something you can be proud of. Not just the numbers in your portfolio, but the way you treated every single person along the way. She left without waiting for a response, the bell above the door chiming softly behind her. Richard sat there for a long time after she was gone. I finished my coffee, then another, watching him from the corner of my eye. Finally, he stood, reached into his wallet, and placed something on the table before walking slowly toward the door. After he left, Claire went to clear his booth. I saw her stop, saw her pick up what he'd left, saw her eyes go wide, then wet. It was a $100 bill, and beneath it, a note scrawled on a napkin. For every time someone didn't see you. I'm sorry it took me so long to look. She stood there for a moment, holding that napkin like it was something precious. Then she folded it carefully, tucked it into her apron pocket, and went back to work. But she was smiling, really smiling. The kind that reaches the eyes and doesn't ask for anything in return. I kept going to that diner every Thursday for years after that. Richard started coming too, usually on Friday mornings. He always sat at the counter now, talked to Claire about her. Kids remembered their names, asked about their soccer games and school plays. He wasn't a different person. People don't change that completely, not really, but he was paying attention now, seeing the world beyond his own ambitions. And that, I think, made all the difference. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Mrs. Chen hadn't walked in that day. If Richard had just left with his pride intact and his blindness unchallenged, he'd probably still be successful, still be climbing whatever ladder he'd set for himself. But he would have missed so much. There's a kind of poverty that has nothing to do with money, a poverty of connection, of awareness, of simple human decency. And there's a kind of wealth that doesn't show up in any bank account, the wealth of knowing you've treated people with kindness, of building relationships instead of just transactions, of leaving every room a little warmer than you found it. Claire retired a few years back. The diner changed hands, then changed again. The last time I drove past, it had been converted into a coffee chain, all clean lines and digital menus and baristas who don't know your name. But I still remember how it felt to sit in that booth by the window, to watch the rain fall on Maple Street, to witness a moment when someone's eyes were opened, when the walls between us and them crumbled just enough to let the light in. We're all carrying something. That's what I learned from Claire, from Mrs. Chen, even from Richard in his own way. We're all carrying burdens that no one else can see. fighting battles that no one else knows about, trying our best to make it through another day. The least we can do is see each other, really see each other, not as obstacles or stepping stones or background characters in the stories we tell about ourselves, but as full, complete, complicated human beings who are all worthy of dignity and kindness and a moment of genuine connection. The tip you leave, or don't leave, is never just about money. It's about acknowledgement, about saying, in the only language a transaction allows, I see you, your work has value, you matter. And that recognition, small as it might seem, can be the difference between a day that breaks someone and a day that lifts them up. The fire's burning low now, and the rain has settled into that gentle rhythm that makes you want to stay just a little longer. I think about Claire sometimes, wherever she is now. I hope she's resting. I hope her kids are doing well. I hope she knows that she mattered, not just to Mrs. Chen or to Richard, but to every person who sat at her counter and felt, for just a moment, like they were home. That's the thing about small kindnesses. They ripple outward in ways we can never predict. The warmth we offer to one person flows through them to the next, and the next, until somewhere down the line, someone we'll never meet is standing a little taller because we chose to see them. Richard told me once, years later, that he thinks about that day more than he'd like to admit. That napkin Claire saved, the one with his apology, she'd given it back to him when she retired, said she didn't need it anymore, that he'd proven the words true 100 times over. He keeps it in his desk drawer now, takes it out sometimes when he's about to do something he knows isn't right, lets it remind him of the man he almost became, and the man he's still trying to be. We're all still trying, and maybe that's enough. Maybe the trying is the point. Not perfection, not some final arrival at goodness, but the daily choice to be a little kinder than we were yesterday, to see a little more clearly, to tip a little more generously, not just in money, but in patience, in grace, in the simple acknowledgement that every person we meet is fighting their own invisible battle. The rain's stopped now, though I can still hear it in the gutters, making its way down to wherever rain goes. The world outside is waking up again, all noise and movement and people rushing past each other without a second glance. But here, in this moment, it's quiet. And in the quiet, I can still hear Claire's voice, soft and unhurried, asking if I needed anything else. I didn't, I'd say. Just the coffee, just the company, just this small, perfect moment of being seen. That was always enough.